we've been getting hit hard with remasters over the last few years. Some have been well received while staying faithful to their original counterparts such as Command & Conquer and Mafia, while some have fallen flat on their face like Crysis Remastered. So where does Diablo 2 Resurrected sit in the pile? Did Blizzard and Vicarious Visions nail it, or did they fail to even start the engine? The truth is, the remaster almost fell at the first hurdle, as a lot of the original Diablo 2 source code had been corrupted. It was only through a mix of recovering code from files staff had taken home, and by scouring various other assets including marketing material, that the project eventually came to fruition and the few gaps could be filled. For those who don't already know, Diablo 2 is an old school, isometric action RPG where you play as a hero attempting to stop Diablo. Normally I would hop into the story here and then talk about gameplay for my reviews, but this is a remaster, so let's cover the elephant in the room first, then the graphics and sound because let's be fair, they're important here, and then I'll cover story and gameplay including how it performs more for the people who maybe haven't played Diablo 2 before. Now, when it comes to adding quality of life improvements to these remasters, there will forever be debate and very strong opinions on both sides of the argument. For the benefit of those who don't understand what I mean when I say quality of life improvements, by this I'm meaning changes to the game other than just updating the graphics, where they're targeted at making it easier or more pleasant to play without changing the core gameplay. And there are a few of these in Diablo 2 Resurrected, though honestly, they aren't attempting to be game changing for the most part, and most of them offer a toggle so they can be turned on or off, which should keep the die-hard purist fans a little bit happier. And I think we can all agree it's impossible to please everyone in these situations. They've updated the UI with the aim to make it more pleasant to look at, more obvious what each icon is, and simply make it easier to use. And a lot of it is optional. There are toggles for things like comparing items, the in-game clock, and they made the auto map adjustable so you can have it as a mini-map if you so wish. There's also been the addition of a shared stash between your characters, and also an expansion of the space in the standard stash, simply to avoid needing mule characters. Automatic gold pickup as you run over it, that's a simple and helpful feature in a game where a lot of items can drop in your big fights and you find yourself clicking on things that you don't want to trying to collect the cash. There is a lot more gesturing when it comes to skill points and spending them, and I suspect there are various other little changes which aren't officially listed, and feel free to comment below if you've spotted any others that I haven't mentioned here. However, that's pretty much where the changes stop. All the back end, the original balance and the items still exist, none of that has been changed. Oh, other than an improved controller support, but again, that's optional and more aimed at console players. If you're not using a controller, it's not going to affect you. The graphics have obviously been completely overhauled with a new 3D engine laid over the top of the back end. And the cutscenes have been completely recreated, which as always from Blizzard looks stunning. And just like Command & Conquer Remastered, you can hit one key and switch back to how the game originally looked in the standard Diablo 2. And honestly, it's quite fun to do this from time to time when you get a new ability, just to remember how it used to look. And as weird as it might sound, though I'm sure I'm not alone in this, I honestly don't remember the game looking as bad as it does in places, or indeed as good as it does in some other places when you look at the old graphics. But as for the new stuff, for the most part, I think it looks really good. I was blown away playing as the druid and trying out the various spells and animal forms. The werewolf looked so much better than the original, where it kinda looked like a giant rat. Equally, watching my friends play as the sorceress with some epic fireball spam was a sight to behold. That said, there sometimes can be a lot going on the screen at once, with a lot of models, so it can be hard to establish exactly what is going on from time to time, but that applies to most of these games. Next up is obviously the sound. Both effects and the soundtrack have been faithfully touched up and have full 7.1 Dolby surround sound support. What more could you ask for? They've simply made the original sounds better. The soundtrack is a classic and certainly never grates on you like some games do in the very many hours you will spend playing this game. Now the story is identical to Diablo 2, so I may be preaching to the choir here, but I'm going to explain it in a brief overview for those who maybe have not played the original game. The story follows on shortly after the events of the original Diablo, where the hero, now known as the Dark Wanderer, slew Diablo but was quickly taken over by its spirit. Diablo is now on a quest to free his brothers Mephisto and Baal so they can wreak havoc on the world. You, as a new different hero, are on the quest to stop the destruction Diablo leaves in his wake and end his existence once and for all, preferably before he frees his brothers. In terms of the gameplay, what you have is an isolinear action RPG in what is sometimes referred to as a hack and slash or dungeon roaming style. Spread over 5 acts, the game takes you to various parts of the world, the final act belonging to the original expansion Lord of Destruction. Each act has a main base or hub town, and then you explore the areas around it, completing quests as you go. The nice thing is, the maps are randomly generated each time you boot up the game, and even the town gates shift about. The towns are the places where you'll pick up most of your quests, however, sometimes just entering a new map area will add the quest to your log. Each act has a new set of quests, and there will be big boss fights at the end, with various mini-bosses in between. Some quests will have you seeking items, and in Act 1 you will quickly end up finding the Resurrected Cube, and this is the item that will stay with you and is used for crafting your own items, such as more advanced gems for socketing. While the map area's primary focus are following the quests, there are various other dungeons and areas to explore outside the story, and some of these areas will even spawn new quests for you. Obviously, these are optional extras, however they are there to help you gain levels and loot, because as with most action RPGs, loot plays a significant role here. Unlike many modern RPGs, however, inventory space is at a premium, and you will have to be much more selective about what you pick up to keep or sell, unless of course you fancy teleporting back after every fight to sell items. And whether you need to sell everything is up for debate, because frankly gold in the game is not hard to come by, and amounts dropped by mobs ramp up fairly quickly. Now, items themselves come in several variants or colours, white in this case being your standard items without any extra bonuses. Grey is actually the standard item but with sockets, unlike other games when grey is usually junk. It can also in this game be an ethereal item. Then you have blue items which are magical, and these have 1 or 2 extra attributes. Then yellow are rare items with 2 to 6 extra attributes, and then orange items are crafted, anything crafted using the Resurrected Cube for example. Green items are part of a set and are a rare drop with predetermined stats, and as with most games, if you have the entire set you get an extra bonus. Finally, there are gold items which are unique, and for the most part are extremely rare, with some of the best and most impressive sets of stats in the game. It should be noted however that truthfully, rare items can be just as good or better because they are totally random and could spawn with extremely impressive stats, whereas most of the unique ones are predetermined. Unless you wanted to, the gameplay does not have to end with the completion of Act 5. You can then hit it up with Nightmare and then Hell Mode, which will take you back through the game with higher level mobs providing more significant challenges. There are 7 classes to choose from when creating a character, but there are no more advanced character creation options here. The only thing that will make you look different are the items you equip. Your choices are Amazon, an expert with a bow and javelin, the Assassin, your typical rogue type character, a Necromancer, a caster who can raise the dead or spread poisons and curses, the Barbarian, who as you may imagine is your typical melee tank or DPS style, the ever-faithful Paladin, heavily armoured with a shield and many magical auras, the Sorceress, your glass cannon type caster, and last but not least the mighty Druid, who can shapeshift, cast powerful elemental spells, or summon creatures of the wild to his aid. All of the classes allow for a degree of customization through skills. You can focus on specific skill trees, or do a mix of all 3 available to each class. For example, you could craft your Druid to be a shapeshifting powerhouse, a powerful caster, or even have an entire zoo following you around the map, driving your friends crazy as they don't know what they're firing at. There is truly something for everyone here, no matter if you want to play solo or multiplayer. And multiplayer is fairly easy to get into. Simply hop into the lobby screen and you can pop into any game listed. Up to 8 people can be in one game on a team, or you can break into 2 competing teams and even have some PvP elements. The system is of course not without its issues. This is an old style game. When you die, you spawn back at the town, but your body stays behind with all your gear on it. You must then go back to get your body naked, but unfortunately you also drop all your gold in a pile next to your body. It is then very easy for someone to pop into your game, loot your gold and leave. And this can be somewhat mitigated now by storing gold in your stash, and to be honest that's something I probably need to get into the habit of doing when I play. Because let's be honest, a friend could even pick it up by accident. And the remastered version of the game has performed pretty well on my system. I wasn't getting any slowdown or anything like that, even when there were a lot of effects on the screen. There were a few issues with lag during the beta because I don't think they were expecting the servers to be hit so hard, and let's be honest, that's the same in a lot of betas anyway, so hopefully that will be solved for the full version. I think as long as you're hitting the recommended specs, you shouldn't be having too many issues. So I am sure many of you have played the original Diablo 2, and some may have played the Resurrected Beta this past week and weekend, of which I'm sure you have your own views, so please do share them below. For me, this is a faithful remaster that's focused on visual improvements while leaving the core gameplay the same. As for the few minimal changes, toggles have been added to keep even the most die-hard fans of the original happy. The improved sound is very welcome while not losing its original charm, and the new cinematics are, as always from Blizzard, stunning. I won't put a score on this, but let's be honest, it's a good looking Diablo 2. It would be a 5 out of 5 because the original is critically acclaimed anyway. Diablo 2 Resurrected will be released on September 23rd this year, and if you enjoy your action RPGs and something a little more old school, it's certainly one you won't want to miss. Thanks very much for watching, please hit that like button and subscribe, and stay tuned for more video game reviews.